Shalom, shalom to all the 12 tribes scattered abroad and to the rest of the world. My name is Neil Israel, and today I want to discuss something. I want to discuss a particular topic, and it is on Babylon. Where is modern Babylon today? What did the scriptures say pertaining to it? And the reason why I want to discuss this today is because I believe that whoever you believe Babylon to be, therefore you put all your eggs in one basket, and therefore you're looking towards a particular way. And if it's not factual on, your understanding of Babylon, then therefore you're missing something completely that the scripture is saying. You're not looking in that direction. And, a lot of people are starting to say that Saudi Arabia is Babylon. This doctrine is gaining more and more popularity, and I'm not one to agree with that. And today, by the Spirit of the Most High, I'm gonna get in these scriptures and prove that that's not factual. And how am I going to do that? I'm going to use the foundations of the beast that Daniel saw as far as nations ruling the world, which we find in, hold on, wait a minute. Okay. Which we find in Daniel's the 7th chapter. So therefore, that's my foundation. Since we're talking about powerful kingdoms, I'm going to use the powerful kingdoms that Daniel saw, that he wrote down. So that would be my foundation. And with that being said, I'm going to use a lot of common sense today because, a lot of people can be over righteous and overzealous, and we get into these scriptures, trying to dust off the trails of Christianity or Islam or just being in, and whatever else darkness, and we get into these scriptures and we can sometimes OD on them and get carried away. So I just read a book. I just read a book. And one of the principles of the book the guy was teaching was KISS, Kiss. Keep it simple, stupid. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna try to keep it simple by simply using the foundation. Who was first when you read Daniel's other powerful kingdoms? You got Babylon, you got the you got the Medo-Persian Empire, and you got the Greeks, and you got the Romans. So with that being said, let's begin. Isaiah 21. And a lot of people like to use this chapter to prove that Saudi Arabia is Babylon. So with that being said, Isaiah 21, verse 1, the burden of the desert of the sea as whirlwinds in the south pass through, so it cometh from the desert, from a terrible land. Now, when you see desert of the sea, you would think the Red Sea. But understand the empire of Babylon. It was surrounded by seas. The empire of Babylon. It was surrounded by the Mediterranean Sea, the Red Sea, the Persian Gulf, the Caspian Sea, the Black Sea. So also, when you go into the Strong's lexicon, we know that ancient Babylon sat on the Euphrates River. And with that being said, when you type in Euphrates River and the lexicon, you will get that it could be sometimes figuratively known as a sea. So don't get caught up on verse 1 and automatically jump to the Red Sea. So with that being said, continuing to verse 2. A grievous vision is declared unto me. The treacherous dealer dealeth treacherously, and spoiler spoileth. Go up, O Elam, besiege, O Media. All the signing thereof have I made to cease. So we're gonna stop right there, and first let me jump to same chapter. I'm going to jump to verse 9. And behold, here cometh a chariot of men with a couple of horsemen. So right there, understand a chariot of men. This is talking ancient terminology. When the scriptures talks about, modern day warfare, it uses modern day terms, such as like a flying saucer or, other names and whatnot. But when you read cometh a chariot of men with a couple horsemen, and he answered and said, Babylon is fallen, and all the graven images of her gods have broken down to the ground. And continuing on, we're going to read some ancient terminologies as far as dealing with Babylon. So understand, chapter 21, we're talking about Babylon. It's going to be destroyed. And now, who's going to destroy Babylon according to the 21st chapter of Isaiah? Elam and Medea. But we know those two empires came together as the Medo-Persian Empire. So the Medo-Persian Empire is going to get together and they're going to destroy Babylon. Now, I'm going to pause it real quick. So I'm going to jump to Daniel chapter 6, verse 28. So this Daniel prophesied in the reign of Darius and in the reign of Cyrus the Persian. So also we're going to go to chapter 6, verse 8. Now, O king, establish the decree and the sign writing that it be not changed according to the law of the Medes and Persians, which alter not. So long story short, the Medes and the Persians, Darius and Cyrus, these are two people ruling together that came together. So when you read that these two nations have come together to destroy, you understand, Babylon, that's just the protocol of the nations being established, which Daniel saw, and we can read that right now in Daniel 7. So Daniel chapter 7, verse 4. The first was like a lion, had eagle's wings, and I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth, and made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. And behold, another beast, a second like unto a bear, and it raised up itself on one side, and it had 3 ribs, and in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it, and they said thus unto it, Arise, devour much flesh. And after this, behold, and lo, another like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. The beast also had 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. After this I saw in the night vision, and behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible. A 4th beast, dreadful and terrible, and exceedingly great, and it had iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverged from all the beasts that was before it, and it had 10 horns. And I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. And later on, we're going to talk about who Babylon truly is after we get done with talking about how these people say Babylon is Saudi Arabia. So with that being said, we should understand that, the second beast, the second was like a bear, and that was the Medo-Persian. And the first was like a lion, had eagle's wings, that was Babylon. And the third was like, a leopard. And the third was like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings, and the 4 wings was the Greeks. So we got Babylon, then the Medo-Persians, which was the bear, and then the Greeks. which was the leopard. So the fourth beast had no description. So jumping back to Isaiah 21, we see that verse 2, Elam and Medina, which is another name for, Elam is another name for the Persians, and Medina is another name for the Medes. So the Medes and Persians are going to get together and they're going to destroy who? According to Daniel's, the 7th chapter, they're going to destroy Babylon. They're not going to destroy Saudi Arabia, okay? So, we're going to go to verse 11. The burden of Dumah, he calleth to me out of Seir, watchman of the night, or what of the night? The watchman said, the morning cometh and also the night. If you will inquire ye, return, come. The burden upon Arabia in the forest in Arabia shall ye lounge, O ye traveling companies of Dedanum. So if you look at a map of Babylon, you will see it was upon the Euphrates River. And then the scriptures is saying that if you look at a map, if you notice, the nations that are being called out are fleeing from the east to the west. And Dedanum is fleeing towards the west. And verse 11, the burden of Dumah, he calleth to me out of Seir. So we know where Seir is in the Levant region. So Seir is calling out to Dumah and figure out what's going on. So therefore, Tema, which is also in the east, is bringing water to Dumah. So they are lounging in Dumah and finding refuge at a place. So therefore, this is people fleeing from the destruction that's coming from where? We're going to pause and figure out that. Jeremiah 50 verse 9. For lo, I will rise up and cause to come against Babylon an assembly of great nations from the north country, and they shall set themselves in array against her, and from thence she shall be taken. The arrows shall be as a mighty expert man, none shall return in vain. And the Chaldeans shall be a spoil, and all the spoil of her shall be satisfied, saith the Lord. So for one, we got a direction of where the destruction is coming from. It's coming from the north. If you look at a map of ancient Babylon, you will see the Medes are north. You understand? The Medes are north, and Elam is kind of like southeast. So when they come together, where are they fleeing to? They're fleeing westward. You understand? So, let's go back to 21, Isaiah 21. And I guess we can jump to verse 15. Well, we can go to 14. The inhabitants of the land of Timar brought water to him that was thirsty. They prevented with their bread him that fled. For they fled from the swords, from the drawn sword, and from the bent bow, from the grievousness of war. We just read about the arrows that shall be, thrown at the Babylonians, and the Babylonians are now fleeing. And who are the nations that are throwing these arrows at them? The Medos and the Persians. The Babylonian Empire is coming to an end. And also, the terminology, once again, like I said earlier, that is used here is really ancient terminology, because we got the arrows being thrown and the sword, and also lounging. When you like the World War III that's prophesied to happen in the Bible, when the Most High shall bring all nations together. There's no break taken out. There's no running and catching your breath and drinking no water. None of that is going down. You understand? Like when it happens, it's going down, and that's why we can read in verse 16. For thus hath the Lord said unto me, within a year according to the years of a hurling, and all the glory of Kedar shall fail. Kedar was in Arabia, like northwest Arabia, and Babylon was in northeast Arabia. So you will kind of understand why it would take a year for Kedar to fail, because it's northwest Arabia, and but Babylon fell automatically because it's northeast, and that's where everything popped off at. You understand? So, but when we read in the book of Revelations about the true Babylon, the true modern Babylon, we will read that her destruction shall come in a day. Her plague shall come in a day. It won't take a year. So when we read, we got to read in context here. Isaiah 21 is talking about the empire of Babylon as a whole, because the burden of the desert of the sea, Babylon was surrounded by seas. You understand? And the nation that prophesied to take them down, that Isaiah prophesied about, that Jeremiah prophesied about, was the Medes and the Purs. And we can further get some more scriptures on that to prove that. And we're going to jump to Jeremiah, the 51st chapter, verse 28. Prepare against her the nations with the kings of the Medes, the captives thereof, and the rulers thereof, and all the lands of his dominion. And the land shall tremble in sorrow, for every purpose of the Lord shall be performed against Babylon, to make the land of Babylon a desolation without an inhabitant. So therefore, when we look at modern, so we just read that the Medes, the Most High is continually calling on the Medes to destroy Babylon. And we read Daniel's, we figure out that the nations that he saw to rule the earth were Babylon, the Medos and Persians, the Greeks, and then Rome. So where is Saudi Arabia coming from? You understand? Because it's a very silly doctrine. That's why I'm stressing common sense when it comes to this. Because just because you read Babylon and Arabia in a single chapter doesn't mean that Babylon is in Arabia today. Common sense would tell you that ancient Babylon was in Arabia. That's true. It was on the river of the Euphrates. But don't get caught up just because you see that the Euphrates is a river. When you go into the Hebrew, it could be also known as a sea, and even more so, that the capital city of Babylon was on the river, but the whole empire was surrounded by multiple seas. So back to Isaiah, the 21st chapter, and we're going to read verses 7 and verse 7. And he saw a chariot with a couple of horsemen, a chariot of asses, and a chariot of camels, and he hearkened diligently with much heed. So understand that this is the destruction of Babylon taking place. And the watchman saw with his eyes chariots of horses and camels and asses. This is not talking about future destruction of Babylon that's by the sea. It's just not. That's why I'm stressing common sense here when we're dealing with this, because when and no, this is people, this is for everybody, but I feel for the people who are waking up, coming into the truth, and they're running with popular doctrine, that somebody made up in their basement. And we all have been there before. A lot of people like to kick against One West and what they teach. But guess what? When you came into the truth, you was right there, sawing everything with them, and everything was this and that, and y'all was on one accord. Now, if you're outside of those camps, then, only thing I would say is that understand where doctrine comes from. It either comes from man or either comes from the Most High, and let every man be a liar. Don't teach a doctrine if you're unsure of it, because people run with this and they put it on other people, and you know, it can cause complete chaos. And what I'm basically trying to say is that I was talking to somebody, and they said, well, my elder will chop you up and yada yada yada. And all I'm saying is that, why do you have to get your elder to deal with me on a topic that you believe? You understand? So like, we have people believing in things that they can't prove, or has too many holes in the doctrine. And as I continue on to get on the flip side of this, you will definitely see what I'm talking about, because it just doesn't line up. And common sense will tell you that what you're reading is the destruction of ancient Babylon. I know the Bible is a tricky book, but you know, the more you read it and the more you meditate and the more years you spend with it, you will understand the context of what you're reading, and you will be able to discern prophecies from ancient past tense, you know, to what could be possibly present day tense. But a lot of times people get in this book and they don't know what they're talking about. And there's a lot of things in this book that I'm not going to speak on, because I don't know what it's talking about. You understand? But what I do know is what I do know. And hopefully the Most High will show me things that I don't know, you know, but let the secret things be to the Most High. But at the same time, I'm saying all this to say what I'm teaching here today, and what I'm saying is very, very much common sense. And it's sad that we can't even discern the times of the scriptures that we're reading, but we want to teach it as doctrine. And I feel sorry for the people who don't know no better and just run with it because somebody in a long garment down to their feet says so, you know? Okay, all right, let's go to, you know what? I'm gonna put a marker in Isaiah 13, but I'm about to go to, where am I going? Oh yeah, Jeremiah. So I'm going to Jeremiah. And excuse me. This is, you know, why you got to be careful when you read the scriptures, because the Most High does write in a way that is hard to be, you know, interpreted or discerned. But you know, He revealed his oracles, you know, to His saints, and what He needs the people to be understood, He will let them know. Romans 3:1, verse through 3. So, with that being said, this is something that's similar to that. So we're going to go to Jeremiah chapter 49, and we're going to start at 34. And keep in mind the foundation that I'm working with here. The word of the Lord came to Jeremiah the prophet against Elam in the day of the reign of Zedekiah, the king of Judah, saying, pause right here. Now, understand that Elam is another name for Persia. So the Medo-Persian Empire, you know, aka the Medo-Elam Empire. So when you read Elam, aka Persia, you understand? And that's the kingdom that took down Babylon. So Elam, aka Persia. So from the top, the word of the Lord came to Jeremiah the prophet against Elam in the beginning of the reign of Zedekiah, king of Judah, saying, thus saith the Lord of hosts, behold, I will break the bow of Elam, the chief of their might. And upon Elam will I bring the four winds from the four quarters of heaven, and I will scatter them toward the four winds, and there shall be no nation whither the outcasts of Elam shall not come. So this is the Most High prophesying destruction on Elam. Verse 37. For I will cause Elam to be dismayed before their enemies, and I will bring them that seek their life, and I will bring evil upon them, even my fierce anger, saith the Lord. I will send the sword after them till I have consumed them. Now check this out, verse 38. And I will set my throne in Elam, and I will destroy from thence the king and the princes, saith the Lord. Huh? What? You understand? The Most High was prophesying all this damnation on Elam, but he also said he will set his throne in Elam. Understand the context that you're reading. That's key. We're reading Jeremiah, and during this time when Jeremiah is prophesying, who's in rulership? The Babylonians. Nebuchadnezzar is in rulership. But he's talking future prophecies of Elam being destroyed, but Elam hasn't even had the kingdom yet, because when you read the scriptures, understand that the known world was the Middle East at that time, and whoever was control of Babylon ruled the world. So when you read verse 38, and I will set my throne in Elam, that's future prophecy, because right now Elam doesn't even have the throne. But when he does get the throne, the Most High is letting him know he's going to destroy it wonderfully. You understand? So with that being said, understand how the scriptures and the Most High called Nebuchadnezzar in Babylon his servant. When the Most High wanted to whoop Israel, when the Most High wanted to whoop Egypt and all these other nations, he called his servant, you understand, Nebuchadnezzar, to do his will and punishing the nations that he saw fit. So when the Most High said he shall set his throne in Elam, it means that whoever is in charge of ruling the known world at that time, you know, the Most High put him there. So understand that. Understand that. And with that being said, since we just read about Elam, you know, getting his butt kicked, and we understand that Elam is coming up after Babylon, then who kicked Elam's butt? What nation did that? And based off the foundation that I have, you should already know. The Greeks. You understand? But I'm gonna read. Take this verse to heart right here. Verse 36. Jeremiah, verse 49, verse 36. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, behold, I will break the bow of Elam, the chief of their might. I'm sorry, now this is verse 36. And upon Elam will I bring the four winds from the four quarters of heaven, and will scatter them toward all the winds, and there shall be no nation whither the outcasts of Elam shall not come. So the four winds from the four quarters, that is who is going to beat Elam, the four winds. Now, who are the four winds? Let's read about these four winds. Daniels. Which, okay, I remember. Daniels. The book of Daniels. And we're going to start off at verse 2. I'm sorry. Daniel chapter 8, verse 2. Now, understand the context that you're reading in. Daniel was in the Babylonian captivity under the Medos and Persian when he was writing this. So at this time, Elam has his throne as the Most High prophesied. But when we read in Jeremiah, he hasn't had his throne yet. The Babylonians were still in charge. So obviously, the Medo-Persian Empire, aka Elam, they did in Babylon. They got the empire of the known world, and now they have their seat. So now Daniel is talking about either present or future. You understand? So let's read Daniel chapter 8, verse 2. And I saw in a vision, and it came to pass, when I saw that I was at Sinai in the palace, which is the province of Elam, and I saw in a vision, and I was by the river of Uliah. Then I lifted up my eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river. My highlighter is so dark, I don't know what that word at the river is. I'm pretty sure it says, I can't see. Before the river, which had two horns, and the horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher came up last. And I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward, so that the beast might stand before him. Neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand, but he did according to his will, and became great. And I was considering, and behold, an he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth, and touched not the ground. And the he-goat had a notable horn between his eyes. And he came unto the ram that had two horns, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran unto him in his fury of his power. And I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler against him, and smote the ram, and brake his horns. And there was no power in the ram to stand before him, but he cast him down into the ground, and stamped upon him. And there was none that can deliver the ram out of his hand. Sounds familiar? Therefore the he-goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken, and it came up four notable ones toward the four winds of heaven. Pause right there. Now you understand what we just read. You know, there was a fight between these two animals, and one of them prevailed. Verse 8, one more time. Therefore the he-goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken, and for it came up four notable ones toward the four winds of heaven. Now, hold where you at. Let's go back to, oh no, I lost my place. Jeremiah chapter 49, verse 36. And upon Elam will I bring the four winds from the four quarters of heaven, and will scatter them toward all of the winds, and there shall no nation whither the outcasts of Elam shall not come. You understand? So the Most High prophesied to Elam before he even got the kingdom that he will destroy him with the four winds of heaven. And we just read right here in verse 8 of Daniel's chapter 8, verse 8, therefore the he-goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken, and for it came up four notable ones toward the four winds of heaven. All right, so to get some revelations on what we're reading here, we can skip down to verse 19. And he said, behold, I will make thee know what be in the last of the end of nation, for at the time appointed the end shall be. The ram which thou sawest having two horns are the kings of Media and Persia, and the rough goat is the king of Greece, and the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king, aka Alexander the Great. Verse 22. Now that being broken, where else four stood up for it, four kingdoms shall stand up out of the nations, but not in his power. So you understand that the goat that beat the ram was the Greeks. You understand? Just how the Most High prophesied to Jeremiah. So I'm speaking this so you can understand the order of the kingdoms of the Most High set up according to his prophets, so we don't get confused when we're reading the scriptures. So understand that Babylonians are first, Medo-Persian Empire second, the Greeks are third, and then the great and dreadful, terrible beast exceedingly great, with terrible, sharp iron teeth, was the Roman Empire, which we will speak on later when we discuss who the true mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abomination of the earth, truly is, when we get into Rome, you know. So, once again, just to drill this in, we just read verse 20, Daniel chapter 8, verse 20. The ram which thou sawest having two horns are the kings of Media and Persia. And this is present tense because this is the kingdom that's ruling. And the rough goat is the king of Greece, of Grecia. And the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king. Now we know Alexander the Great died and his kingdom was split into four. Now that being broken, where else four stood up, for it four kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation, but not in his power. So, okay, we should have, some type of foundation of understanding here as far as empires is concerned and how the Most High is prophesying, So let every man be a liar, and don't believe me. Search the scriptures, If I'm in error and you see I'm in error, let me know, I'm just trying to do the best with the understanding that the Most High has given me, you understand, to throw down false doctrines that I see my people holding on to. So, with that being said, Isaiah chapter 13. Okay, alright, let's go to Isaiah 13, verse 1. The burden of Babylon, which Isaiah the son of Amos did see. Lift ye up a banner upon the high mountain, exalt the voice unto them, shake the hand that they may go into the gates of the nobles. I have commanded my sanctified ones, I have also called my mighty ones for my anger, even them that rejoice in my highness. Now we're gonna stop right here and evaluate some things. Verse 1, the burden of Babylon. So don't get confused when you read Babylon. Babylon was an empire. It was the ruler of the known world, but it did have a capital and it was surrounded by seas. So therefore, the burden of Babylon. Babylon is going to be destroyed. But when you read Babylon is going to be destroyed, first of all, understand that who's up next after Babylon? The Medo and Persian Empire. You understand? We're not talking about Saudi Arabia here. So when the Medo and Persian Empire took over Babylon, guess what they did? They kept the same political structure and the same name of the empire, and we will read that later on. But verse 3 is key. I have commanded my sanctified ones. I have also called my mighty ones for my anger, even them that rejoice in my highness. Now, what does that mean? Even them that rejoice in my highness. So whoever's going to destroy Babylon is rejoicing in the Most High highness. Now, how can we figure out exactly what that means? Because we understand that the Most High calls nations his servants when they're in control of the known world and when he wants to use them to destroy who he sees fit. So I am looking for the book of Ezra, chapter 1. And we can read, now in the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, first year. So they just got the empire from Nebuchadnezzar. Now in the first year, or whoever's, or Belshazzar, rather. Now in the first year of Cyrus, the king of Persia, the word of the Lord by mouth of Jeremiah might be fulfilled. The Lord stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia, that he made a proclamation through all his kingdom and put it also in writing. Thus saith Cyrus, king of Persia, the Lord God The Lord God hath given me all the kingdoms of the earth, and hath charged me to build him an house at Jerusalem, which is in Judea. Now, what does that sound like to you? What does that sound like to you? A foreign Gentile nation has just got control of the known world, and when they got the inheritance of the known world, what did they do? First of all, they inherited the captivity of the children of Israel. But keep in mind what Isaiah chapter 13 verse 3 just said. I have commanded my sanctified ones. I have also called my mighty ones for my anger, even them that rejoice in my highness. So, do you not think that by Cyrus acknowledging that the God of Israel have given him the kingdoms of the earth, and that he inherited his chosen people in captivity and will now release them so they can go build. Matter of fact, he's gonna also return the things that the previous nation has stole that he inherited. So the things that was in the temple that he now have, you can have your things back in the temple. You can have your children back. Matter of fact, go build the temple and we will help fund it. You understand? Is that not a nation that rejoice in the most high highness? You understand? So when we read the destruction of Babylon, who's going to do it? A nation that rejoice in the most high highness. The book of Ezra, chapter 1, verse 2. Thus said Cyrus, king of Persia, the Lord God of heaven hath given me all the kingdoms of the earth, and hath charged me to build him an house at Jerusalem, which is in Judah. So Cyrus, the king of Persia, said that. But understand how we read earlier. That Darius and Cyrus, the Medes and the Persians, were contemporaries and they ruled together. So when you read Darius, you know Cyrus around somewhere. When you read Cyrus, Darius is around somewhere. So let's go back to Isaiah the 13th chapter. Isaiah the 13th chapter. We're going to start off at verse 17. Behold, I will stir up the Medes. And keep in mind, verse 1, the burden of Babylon. So we're talking about the destruction of Babylon. Who's going to destroy Babylon? Let's read. Isaiah 13:17. Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them, which shall not regard silver, and as for gold, they shall not delight in it. Their bows also shall dash the young man to pieces. And keep in mind, bows, we read that earlier, bows and arrows was a part of the destruction of Babylon. You understand? First of all, that's not a modern day warfare language of the scriptures. You know, that's ancient, past tense warfare tactics. And verse 18, their bows also shall dash the young man to pieces, and they shall have no pity on the fruit of the womb, and their eyes shall not spill children. In Babylon, the glory of the kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldeans, excellent, shall be as when God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. So the beauty of the Chaldeans, is that not Nebuchadnezzar's people? Like, these are ancient people of Babylon. So when you read, that I thought the Edomites were in control of Babylon according to the Saudi Arabia doctrine. You understand? So you got to understand what you're reading here, and go to according to context, and don't run with doctrine. Okay, all right, okay. Now, I'm gonna hold where I'm at, and I'm going to go to Daniel chapter 5. Belshazzar, the king, made a great feast to 1,000 of his lords, and drank wine before the 1,000. Belshazzar, while he tasted the wine, commanded to bring the golden and silver vessels of his father Nebuchadnezzar had taken out of the temple which was in Jerusalem, that the king and his princes, his wives, and his concubines might drink therein. Then they brought the golden vessels that were taken out of the temple of the house of God, which was at Jerusalem, and the king and his princes, his wives, and his concubines drank in them. They drank wine and praised the gods of gold, and of silver, of brass, of iron, of wood, and of stone. Okay, Daniel chapter 5, verse 5. In the same hour came forth fingers of a man's hand, and wrote over against the candlestick upon the plaster of the wall of the king's palace. And the king saw the part of the hand that wrote. Then the king's countenance was changed, and his thoughts were troubled him, so that the joints of his loins were loose, and his knees smote one against another. You understand what that just said? Ew. Ew. Long story short, he was sitting there drinking, wine with his peoples out of the golden cups that were in the temple of the Most High, and he saw a hand writing on the wall, and he got so scared. He got so scared that his countenance was changed and his loins were loose. That means he pooped on himself and his knees started to shake together. This man was terrified when he saw what he saw. The king cried aloud, "Bring in the astrologers, the Chaldeans, and the smoothsayers." And the king spake and said to the wise men of Babylon, "Whosoever shall read the writing and show me the interpretation thereof shall be clothed with scarlet and have a chain of gold about his neck, and shall be the third ruler in the kingdom." So this hand wrote something on the wall, but nobody could decipher it for the king. Long story short, continuing on, the gifted came. Verse 13. Then was Daniel brought in the king, and the king spake and said unto Daniel, "Art thou that Daniel which art the children of the captivity of Judah, whom the king my father brought out of Jewry? I have even heard of thee, that the spirit of the gods is in thee." Gods, plural. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Continuing on. "And that light and understanding and excellent wisdom is found in thee. And now the wise men, the astrologers, have been brought in before me, that they should read this writing and make it known to me the interpretation thereof, but they could not show me the interpretation of the thing." Skipping down to verse 28. Basically, it said this. Well, we'll start at verse 24. Then was part of the hand sent from him, and the writing was written. And this is the writing that was written. I'm gonna skip 25. This is the interpretation of the thing. So, verse 28. Persia, the kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and the Persians. Then commanded Belshazzar, and they clothed Daniel with scarlet and put a chain of gold about his neck, and made a proclamation concerning him, that he should be the third ruler in the kingdom. And that night was Belshazzar, the king of the Chaldeans, you understand? The king of the Chaldeans, Belshazzar, the king of the Chaldeans, slain. And that night was Belshazzar, the king of the Chaldeans, slain. And Darius the Median took the kingdom being about 62 years old. It pleased Darius to set over the kingdom in 100. Okay, we'll stop there. So, long story short, well, let's connect this to something, because understand that the Most High called Nebuchadnezzar, his servant, and he did, which was Belshazzar's father, and he did according to what the Most High, needed him to do. But what happened that he took the kingdom away from his son, and we can go to Jeremiah 51 verse 11. Well, let's go at let's go at verse 11. Make bright the arrows, gather the shields. The Lord have risen up the spirit of the kings of the Medes, for his device is against Babylon to destroy it, because it is the vengeance of the Lord's, because it is the vengeance of the Lord, the vengeance of his temple. Set up the standard upon the walls of Babylon, make the watch strong. You understand? So when we read in verse Isaiah 21, it was mainly the watchmen telling the story. Set up the standard upon the walls of Babylon, make the watch strong, set up the watchmen, prepare the ambush, for the Lord have both devised and done that which he spake against the inhabitants of Babylon. So verse 11 one more time. Make bright the arrows, and we keep reading arrows as far as the weapons used as the destruction of Babylon. And who's going to do it? The Medes and the Persians. So make bright the arrows, which is ancient warfare. Ancient warfare. It's not modern talk. If a nation was going to destroy Saudi Arabia, you understand, we're going to read flying robes like in Zechariah and things of that nature. But verse 11, make bright the arrows, gather the shields, the Lord hath risen up the spirit of the kings of the Medes, for his devices against Babylon to destroy it, because it is the vengeance of the Lord, the vengeance of his temple. Now, something I ask myself is, what if, Belshazzar wouldn't have drunk out of, the Most High vessels? Because he died that night. Most High, he did not like that. He cut him off that night, and the kingdom was given to the Medes, as the scriptures said. But keep in mind this, that was not the destruction of Babylon, because when the kingdom was given to the Medes and the Purs after that, because understand what happened in that event. The nation, no. The kingdom of Babylon was given to another nation. That was the big transformation, because before it was just passed on from son to son. Now another nation is in charge, but it's still Babylon. But there was a destruction taking place. That's why when you can go to ancient Babylon in Iraq, and you will see the ruins of Babylon, and it's destroyed. That's why the scripture says it's to be as Sodom and Gomorrah, because it's ruins there. It's completely destroyed. But the empire that took over in the region kept the same name and the same political system. And when they were destroyed, that was the end of Babylon. That's when we read in Jeremiah the 49th chapter, verse 36, and upon Elon will I bring the four winds from the four quarters of heaven. So we know that the Medo and Persian Empire was destroyed by the Greeks, and they were destroyed wonderfully. Daniel spoke of that the goat stamped upon the ram and did him dirty. So that was when the name of Babylon was destroyed as an empire. And I can prove that when we go to Ezra and other books in the Bible, and we read that the Medos and the Persians were still referring to the empire that they inhabited as Babylon. The book of Ezra, chapter 5, verse 13. But in the first year of Cyrus, king of Babylon, the same king made a decree to build this house of God. So Cyrus was called the king of Babylon. And Cyrus was a Mede, you understand? And then we can also go to, I guess, what we read earlier. Okay, we'll just stop there as far as, proving that Babylon and, in a lot of the scriptures that people use to say it's Saudi Arabia, it's not factual, because when you read the scriptures in context, ancient Babylon was in Arabia. This is factual. It was in Iraq. Ancient Babylon was a huge empire that, was surrounded by many seas. Ancient Babylon was an empire who was prophesied to be destroyed by many, many prophets. Ancient Babylon ruins is as Sodom and Gomorrah. And you can see it from Google Earth. You can see ancient Babylon destroyed, just like the scripture says. And we see the nations we read the nations that destroyed Babylon, and we read the nations that destroyed the nation that destroyed Babylon. You understand? All this is in sequence, all this is in order. But here's the thing, here's the kicker. When you read about Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abomination of the earth, it's a mystery for a reason. A mystery means not easily to be understood, not easily to explain, kind of scratching your head. A lot of people can't grasp onto this. And, but like I said earlier before I started going in, the Most High reveals, his oracles to his saints, and whatever he wants the people to know, he will deliver a message, and, his saints will blow the horn. But you got to be wary of these wolves in sheep's clothing coming with vain doctrine. You understand? And they can only deceive the people who don't study for themselves. I'm going to say it again. They can only deceive the people who don't study for themselves. If you're not reading the scriptures in a meek and humble spirit, and you're coming with, doctrine that you would like to put somebody in bondage with, that can tell the story right then and there. Watch how these people present their doctrine. Look at these people to see if they have a meek and humble spirit to present their doctrine in the first place. Because I'll say this, a lot of people that I see proclaiming Saudi Arabia is Babylon are the same people, for some reason, have a wolf-like spirit, and they try to pass it off as a Lion of Judah. But you understand, the Lion of Judah stands on truth, and is coming with a double-edged sword. You understand? And he also, he also is in tune, with the spirit of the Most High. And when they swing that sword, they make sure they get not the innocent in their pathway. So, don't be don't be, what's the word I'm looking for? Um, Inebriated in your doctrine, because I notice a lot of doctrine out here is just drunken doctrine and it has no real foundation. Sober up when you got this word with you and search the scriptures. Now we about to get into who the real Babylon is, the real mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. Okay, all right. First thing first. First thing first. Let's go to the book of Matthew. The book of Matthew, chapter 24. And this is for all my Apocrypha readers out there. I don't condone reading the Apocrypha, as a canonized book, I would say. But you can read what you want, but I got a lesson about the Apocrypha on why you shouldn't hold it as a canonized book. But there's some holy things in there, and there's some unholy, wicked things in there, and I explain that in my lesson to help you out. But knowledge is from everywhere. It's all about if you have wisdom to discern it, because you could be reading witchcraft in the Apocrypha and think it's cool. But long story short, Matthew's 24 verse 29. Nope. Matthew's 24 verse 15. Now, remember the foundation that I'm coming with. One is just context of what you're reading. So, most of Matthew's 24 is in red letters. So obviously it's the Messiah speaking. And obviously we know the time that he's speaking in, this is the fourth kingdom. We had the Medos. No. We had the Babylon, Medos, Persians, Greeks. And now we got that dreadful and terrible beast, exceedingly great, the Roman Empire. Matthew 24 verse 14. When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand at the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand. And I guess that's why I'm here today. Now check this out. Matthew chapter 24 verse 15. When ye shall therefore see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand. Now, if you Apocrypha readers, say that, oh, this already happened when, the Greeks desolated the temple and yada, yada, yada. But why would the Messiah warn us of the abomination of desolation if this is an event that happened before he was even born? You understand? So that's why I tell you to be wary of what you read. Like me personally, I only need, Genesis through Revelations. That's all I need. That's my foundation. That's what I love. But I come up with doctrine with Genesis through Revelations. But I will admit that I can furthermore prove the doctrine that I have with other books, but I don't need them though. You might ask me, how is Esau the Jewish man? I could prove it to you in the scriptures. It's prophesied that Edom shall be in the Holy Land in end times. Then you might say, how did they turn white? I may need the book of Jasher if you want to know how they turn white. But long story short, I'm just letting you know on, what you're reading. So therefore, we got to learn about the abomination of desolation, because the Messiah said, look out for this person. And please, my One West campers, my brother and my sisters, and any other body who thinks that Luke 21 and Matthew 24 are one and the same. They are not. They are thousands of years apart as far as incidents are concerned. So please don't get them confused. The Messiah is speaking of prophecy here. So Matthew 24 verse 15. When ye shall therefore see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand. Now, let's do what the Messiah says. Let's go to the book of Daniel. Now, with that being said, context here, peoples, we're in the fourth kingdom, the Roman Empire. But something is happening with the Roman Empire, according to my understanding, that we need to talk about. And out of the Roman Empire comes what? A little horn. And that's the abomination of desolation. Let's read about it. Now, we're going to go to Daniel 7, verse, let me see. All right, I gotta freestyle this one. So, all the Romans, I gotta freestyle this second part. So, all right, Daniel 7, verse 7. Daniel 7:7. Okay. After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth, and devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn. Now check this little horn out. You hear me? Check this little horn out. If you want to read about the 7 heads and 10 horns, you can go to my Revelations 12 breakdown. That's another lesson. We're talking about Babylon, who the other people say they are, and what the scriptures really prove. Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots. Understand why she's called a whore, and abominations of the earth. Abominations. Ugh. Verse 8. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up. Now that's history right there. The 3 horns that was plucked up was the Hurons, the Vandals, and the Ostrogoths. Do your history on who plucked them up. I forget what lesson I went into that, but, figure out who plucked them up. And it would be, I believe it was the Pope. So, before whom there were, behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. Now, this mouth speaking great things, we will later find out that mouth speaking great things are blasphemy. And understand, eyes of a man. This is not necessarily a king we're talking about here, but he is a ruler. So who else can have that much power, eyes of a man, but not necessarily a king? We'll get into it. I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hairs on his head was like the pure wool. His throne was like the fury of flame, and his wheels as burning fire. Okay. And now we're going to go to verse 24. And the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise, and another shall arise after them. And he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and he shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws. And they shall be given into his hands until a time and times and dividing of times. Now, who is out here changing times and laws? You understand? Who's changing times and laws? You know, I believe George Bush at one time tried to change something about like 1201 or something, and the Pope said, "No, you can't do that." And you know, what empire is changing, you know, the day of rest from Saturday to Sunday? And you know, why can't you buy, your alcohol beverage on Sunday? You know, like I read a book called Sunday Law. If you read this book called Sunday Law, then we can close this lesson down right now. You know, seriously. So, long story short, I'll tell you a little bit about this book called Sunday Law. You know, my neighbor, he came up to me, old school Puerto Rican dude, and he gave me this book. And he was kind of messing with me because I guess he liked to test his neighbors and whatnot to see if they freak out. Because he gave it to his other Puerto Rican neighbor, and he gave the book back to him. He like, look, I don't want this book because the neighbor he gave it to was a Catholic. He said, I don't want that book. But when he gave it to me, it was called Sunday Law, and I read the book. I devoured it. It was great. And when I returned the book back to him, I brung my notes out with the book, and I brung my notes out, and I said, look, Fakar's Philly die in his book says adds up to 666, and I showed him some notes I had for like 2 years already. And I said, look, I've been wrote this down. Fakar's Philly die means 666. Fakar's Philly die is what? It's the official title of the Pope. It means substitute of Christ on earth. You understand? And the book was about that deadly wound and Rome's head being healed and how they will wreak havoc in the end times. But that little horn, the Pope, eyes of a man, speak blasphemy. Continuing on. Changing times and laws. Sunday law. Check that one out. We're going to go to Daniel chapter 8, verse 22. Now that being broken, whereas four stood up, for it, four kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation, but not in his power. Now we know that's the Greek Empire when Alexander died. Now it's four empires. Now after there's four empires, who's up next? Verse 23. And in the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressor shall come to their full, a king of fierce countenance, understanding dark sentences, shall stand up. You understand? And his power shall be mighty, but not of his own power. And he shall destroy wonderfully. He shall prosper in practice and shall destroy the mighty and the holy people. That goes back to the Inquisition. You know, people want to point to Saudi Arabia and whatnot, but no Muslim conquest on the face of this earth has has not even thought to kill more people than what the Roman Empire and the Vatican Church has done under their inquisitions. You understand? The Muslims can't hold a candle, can't hold a light of destruction when it's compared to the Vatican Church and the Roman Empire killing Protestants in South America, killing Indians in America in the name of Christ, killing their own Christian people or what's the word? Gentile people in Europe and Africa, all around the world. So verse 25. And through his policy also he shall cause crafts to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. And he shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hands. So how can this man stand up against the prince of princes? That's which is the Messiah. So the precept I have for that is Daniel chapter 7 verse 21. I beheld, and the same horn made war with the saints and prevailed against them. This is the great tribulation period, Jacob's trouble, until Ancient of Days came and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High. And the time came that the saints shall possess the kingdom. So understand the same The same little horn made war with the saints. So he's going to be in power. The Romans are going to be in power until the Messiah comes. But people think the Roman Empire is no more, like they just disappeared. You understand? That's because Mystery Babylon the Great is at work and people are confused. But Rome daily healed will be healed. And we'll jump up to 7:11. I beheld then because the voice of the great words which the horn spake. Remember? A mouth speaking great things. I beheld even till the beast was slain and his body destroyed and given to the burning flames. So understand the little horn speak great things and will be given to where? The burning flames. This little horn understand dark sentences. He's changing times and laws. He has a mouth speaking blasphemy. Who does this sound like to you? Hmm? Everybody says that Rome has our records and whatnot, and Rome knows the truth. The Vatican has our records. Understanding dark sentences. You understand? Everybody knows that the Roman Empire was changing times and laws, but nobody wants to focus on this little horn. You think it's America, but America is just another word for Rome. You understand? But Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth, has a headquarter. She has a headquarter. Now continuing on, now before I continue on, should I say, I want to say that we can get into the headquarters in a minute, but I want to let the people know that Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth, Babylon, Mystery Babylon today is a spirit. You know, she's a spirit. You know, if you go into the deepest, jungles in Africa, and everybody in that tribe has a Christian cross on their neck, you're in Babylon. You understand? What other people upon the face of the earth who conquered the earth in the name of a religious institution? But I'm gonna stop right there. I'm just gonna say that, and then I'm gonna Daniel chapter 11 verse 37. Neither shall he regard the God of his fathers, nor the desire of woman, nor the regard of any God, for he shall magnify himself above all. He doesn't regard women. And that's huge. But in his estate shall honor the God of forces, and a God whom his father knew not, and he shall honor with gold and silver, and with precious stones and pleasant things. Okay, let's get into the meat of this. Revelation 17. Simple as that. And there came one of the seven angels, which had seven vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will show thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunken with the wine of her fornication. So he carried me away. Hold on, wait, let's stop here. So understand this. When they try to tell you that Babylon is Saudi Arabia, and they try to tell you the wine of her fornication is oil, understand that's silly. And why is that silly? Because, yes, Saudi Arabia produces oil, and the leaders of the nation buys the oil. But we're reading that with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunken. So not only the kings, but the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunken with the wine of her fornication. So the people of the earth are drunk with the wine of Babylon's fornications. The kings of the earth are drunk with the wine of her fornication. So whatever this fornication is, she got the people of the earth mad. But we know when we read the scriptures, when we go to, what is it, Jeremiah, the 3rd chapter, when you commit fornication, you know, well, I'm gonna continue reading. or verse 3. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness, and of her fornication. And upon her head was a name written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. Now we getting somewhere, because this beast has a specific color that she's wearing, purple and scarlet. What institution today is wearing purple and scarlet? And why? And what is she doing to get the people of the earth drunk with the wine of her fornication? What is the wine of her fornication? Could it not be Catholicism? Could it not be Christianity? Is the Christian house not a whorehouse? And she's called Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots. Why is she called? Why is this written on her head? Obviously, this is her name. It's on her forehead. Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abomination of the earth. The Catholic Church calls themselves the Mother Church. That's basically her stealing the title of Israel as the Most High's bride. The Most High calls her a harlot and says, I don't know you. You're not the mother of the doctrine that should go out, because that's Israel's job. We are the kings and priests of the world that gives out the doctrine of the world that comes from the Most High. You understand? So we all have these people in our family. When we talk to them about the word, you can see the drunkenness, just appearance that comes upon them when they say, I don't need none of that. I got my Jesus. This is all I need. Yada, yada, yada. They just get, intoxicated with Christianity. And it's a spirit that comes upon them that they're not sober enough to hear the common sense doctrine of their nationality and the prophecies of the scriptures. That is a spirit. You understand? The people of the earth are not drunken with the oil of Saudi Arabia. You understand? The scripture says you are drunken, but not with wine, not with strong drink. You understand? Like, it's not the oil of Saudi Arabia, people. That's why when I said Mystery Babylon the Great is a spirit, I'm speaking spiritual things here. I'm speaking drunken with spiritual things here. I'm not talking about a physical element to get people intoxicated or to get people hooked and on oil that you can't, transform into a hybrid. Oh, I need oil for my car. I'm drunk off of the wine of Saudi Arabia's fornication. That's incorrect, people. That's incorrect. So that's why I say the people who hold these doctrines have a more carnal spirit, from what I can see when I interact with them. Because they looking at this as such a physical element. You will never get it, because it's a mystery. You understand? And you got to be on a whole nother level to receive it and to explain it and to expound upon it. You know what I'm saying? It's not physical oil. It's a physical spirit that people are intoxicated with. So continuing on. But long story short, the Vatican Church, their coin colors are scarlet and purple. And they have a leader of their institution. And the leader name is blasphemy. Their whole foundation is blasphemy. And we will get into that later. So understand that the Pope's official title is Vicari Filii Dei, and it means substitute of Christ on earth. What does the Messiah do? Why was the Messiah crucified? What did they charge him with to kill him? Answer that for me, and we'll come back to that later. Let's finish this up. Verse 6, Revelation 17:6. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. So this whore is drunken with the blood of the saints and the blood of Jesus. We can stop this lesson right now and close it up. Did the Saudi Arabians kill the Messiah? Did they kill the Messiah? But who killed the Messiah? The Romans. You understand? The Romans killed the Messiah. So right there, we should know that Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abomination of the earth, has something to do with the Romans. Verse 7. And the angel said unto me, wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman. So now, if we read beyond this, we should just know. We should just know. With all the clues given after this, we should just know. Because the angel said, verse 7, and the angel said unto me, wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman, and of the beast that carried her, which have 7 heads and 10 horns. The beast that thou sawest was, and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, and go into perdition. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was, and is not, and yet is. Pause right there. What does that sound like to you? So it sounds like some ancient talk, some present talks, and some prophecy talk. So let's go to Revelation 13, verse 2. And the beast which I saw was like a leopard, and feet were like the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. And I saw one of his heads as it was wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. So that's the Roman Empire, whose wound will be healed. You understand? And let's go to verse 18. And here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is a number of a man, and his number is 666. This number is 666, and it's a man. And Daniel's told us that he has eyes of a man, and the Messiah said, go read Daniel's. You understand? So it's a man, eyes of a man, and he has a number. So remember I told you earlier, when you add up the Pope official title in Latin and Roman numerals, what do you get? You get 666. And his name means substitute of Christ on earth, the substitute of God on earth. And like I asked you before, what did the Messiah get charged to get crucified with? You understand? We'll get into that later. And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemy, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. Now remember that, a mouth speaking blasphemy. If you want to understand the 40 and 2 months, I would advise you to go read or go check out my Revelations 12 breakdown. Continuing on, Revelation 17:8. The beast that thou sawest was, verse 9. And here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. Now we got a location. Now you can do your due diligence and find out what city in the world sit on 7 hills. You may find a couple, but when you find one that sticks out, grab that one that sticks out and see how it fits into all these other clues and scriptures and revelations that the Most High has given us. So when you do your research, you will find out that Vatican City sits on 7 hills. You understand? The religion institution which killed more people on the earth than anyone, with the Inquisitions, the people of Rome who killed the Messiah and the saints, the people who speak blasphemy of the scriptures. You understand? By changing the times and laws, and by giving man the authority to think they can forgive sins. The Most High has a beef with Vatican City, with the Pope, with the whore, with Mystery of the Babylon, with Catholicism. You understand? So, with that being said, okay, all right, okay. Um, Now we can go to the book of Mark, chapter 2. The book of Mark, chapter 2. And understand that this beast has a mouth speaking blasphemy. Blasphemy. Mark chapter 2, verse 7. Why doeth this man thus speak blasphemy? Who can forgive sins but God only? So therefore, they charge the Messiah for blasphemy, for saying he can forgive sins. Let's go to John chapter 10. John chapter 10, verse 33. The Jews answered him, saying, For a good work we stone thee not, but for blasphemy, and because that thou, being a man, making thyself God. You understand? Being a man, making thyself God. Mark chapter 2, verse 7. Why doth this man speak it blasphemy? Who can forgive sins? Only God. So the Messiah says, look, I can forgive sins. You understand? I'm the Son of God. But who else on the face of the earth is proclaiming that they have the power, speaking blasphemy, as the scripture says, to forgive sins? Now, there is something called absolution. Now, this absolution is the act of absolving, or the state of absolved, release from guilt, obligation, or punishment. Then it says Christianity in quotation marks. A formal remission of sin pronounced by a priest in the sacrament of penance. You understand? So this is a practice set up by the Roman Catholic Church, that they give their so-called priests the authority to absolve and forgive sins. You know how they do. You see it on TV and whatnot. You hear about it. The people walk into the church and they go into the booth and they say, Father, I have sinned. And the Father says 3 Hail Marys, your sins are forgiven. Wave their hand and yada, yada, yada. Like, come on now. That's blasphemy. And then they skip out the church all lolly-dolly, ya la la, I'm forgiven. No. And you will also understand when you look at the Catholic system and how it's set up. They have so many intercessors before you can even get to the Most High. You understand? They got Saint Perry, Saint Peter, Mary, and the angels. Like they give all this energy and time to these deities that they worship, and don't even talk to the Most High. They talk to men first. They talk to their deities first, and they have no connection with the Most High. You understand? And there's something else in the Roman Church and Catholicism called sacraments of penance. And it says, chiefly in Roman Catholic Church, the practice of private confession of sins to a priest and the receiving of absolution, which we just read about. So understand that it seems like everything that the Roman Catholic Church does is against the Most High's will and his natural order. So understand the mouth of blasphemy. Understand the eyes of a man who's the leader of this institution. Understand all the killing in the blood that they have said with the saints and also the people of the earth. And understand how the people of South America, the people of the Caribbeans, American people, black, white, Spanish, people in Africa, people in China, understand how these people are all drunken with the wine of the whore's fornication when it comes to Catholicism, living living lawless, thinking they can do whatever and eat whatever and confess their sins to men and and just do things that the Most High did not ordain to be holy. You understand? Who took the book and gave it back to someone to destroy them with? How can people be reading the Bible but still be destroyed spiritually? That's why Rome was described as terrible and exceedingly great, because this is the only empire that destroyed us physically and spiritually. You understand? We were still able to, in some ways still, call on the name of our power in captivity. You understand? Daniel fought for that for us. You know, um, even with the Greeks, we did what we had to do to get back to our power. And but this other institution, you would think they fell back, the Roman Empire, and they let us be free. But no, 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 no. They created something that can still keep us in shackles and still have the yoke of iron on us when we don't even know. You understand? They they got us intoxicated with something that we can still do things to benefit them. They don't have to have us in the field anymore. You know, they have our minds to 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 do subservient things that a free people wouldn't do. You understand? They disconnected us from our power. Matthew 23, verse 9. And call no man your father upon the earth, for one is your Father which is in heaven. What institution out here has men calling other men father? But the Roman Catholic Church. Forgive me, Father, I have sinned. Doing the sacraments of penance, confessing your sins to a man who thinks he has power to forgive sins. Understand the beef that the Most High has with the Catholic Church. You understand? Understand his disdain for them. Understand the destruction that's prophesied for Babylon. You understand? Understand he told you these people sit on 7 hills. Understand he told you these people wear scarlet and purple. Understand he told you that the Roman Empire that is a part of Babylon destroyed the saints and the Messiah. Understand that he told you that they will be the last empire, but there shall be another little horn that shall come up from the Roman Empire that shall speak great things. Who is this little horn? But Vatican City. You understand? A religion institution that destroyed the people wonderfully. You understand? Them Muslims are not bothering. Well, I'm not going to say that. But as far as on a world scale is concerned, they're not a threat. They're not a threat. And let me furthermore prove the difference between these two institutions. Okay, let's go to Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 2. Hold on. Okay. Chapter 2, verse 1. Now we beseech you, brethren, by the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ, and by the gathering together unto him, that ye be not soon shaken in mind, or be troubled, neither by spirit nor by word, but by letter as from us, as that the day of Christ is at hand. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that the day shall not come except there come a falling away first, and that the man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition, who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God, who is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. Now, a precept for that is Matthew 24, verse 15. When you should therefore see the abomination of desolation stand in the holy place, who shall understand, let him understand. Who shall read it, let him understand. Now, this is another lesson right here, that the third temple must be built. It's prophecy. For the simple fact, did the Messiah come the first time and there was no temple? You understand? The Most High is going to make a way that the people build a temple for the coming of the Messiah. You understand? But who is going to invade the temple before the Messiah gets there? The son of the perdition, the Antichrist, the man of sin, the abomination of desolation, the false prophet. He has many names. You understand? I'm gonna read it again. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come except there be a falling away first, and that the man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition, who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. So that's a prophecy. Look out for that one. All right. The Pope is going to go to he's going to try to move his headquarters from Vatican City to Jerusalem once that third temple is built, and it's going to be glorious than Vatican. And he's going to sit in the temple claiming to be God, and that is when the abomination of desolation shall be placed. But continuing on with the lesson. But this is a big one right here, verse 11. And for this cause God shall send them strong delusion, that they shall believe a lie. You understand? For this cause God shall send them a strong delusion, that they shall believe a lie. Okay. 1 Timothy chapter 4. 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 3. Okay. Hold on. My phone's about to die. I think I might start at verse 1. Now the Spirit speaketh expressly that in the latter times some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils. Doctrines of devils. Speaking lies and hypocrites, having their consciousness spared with a hot iron, forbidding to marry, and condemning to abstain from meats which God hath created, to be received with thanksgiving of them which believe and know the truth. Now, what institution out here is forbidding people from getting married? Who says that nuns are not allowed to get married? Who says that priests are not allowed to have a wife? Who says these ridiculous things? You understand? There's an institution called the Catholic Church on earth that has certain members of their institution to never have pleasure of the opposite sex. The scriptures calls that doctrines of devils. You understand? Show me in Islam where they forbid to marry. As far as I know, they have up to 4 wives, and a lot of them, marry the young girls. Not only do they marry young. So, as far as this goes, we can discount the Islam and all of that madness. Okay. to wrap this up on a good note, let's go to the last book, which is the book of Revelations. And the book of Revelations, we can understand that we can understand what the Most High is dealing with, and what I've been trying to say, since I've been touching on this topic, is that as far as all these prophecies coming down the pipe and things being set up to play their part, that's a whole nother story as far as the future is concerned and how this is going to happen. I think I did a good job at trying to touch it, to the best of my ability in the Revelation 12 breakdown. But what I've been trying to say as far as Rome, being the fourth empire upon the face of the earth, just like Daniel's, the Messiah told us to read Daniel's, and Daniel said that the little horn we shall be warned against until the Messiah returns. You understand? And out this little horn was a mouth speaking blasphemy, having power to change times and laws. And as far as the little horn is concerned, a great spirit came out of the little horn. And the little horn is Vatican City, which is a religion institution that came out of Rome. And out of Vatican City came something that destroyed the whole entire world. It's called Catholicism. You understand? It's not called oil. It's not called oil. So when you look at Vatican City, you will see it sits right on the sea. You understand? So when you read Babylon and it sits on the sea, guess what? It does sit on the sea. It sits on the Mediterranean Sea. So Revelations 18 verse 8, therefore her plague shall come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burnt with fire, for strong is the Lord God who judgeth her. So, and I believe it was Revelations, no. Isaiah 21, we can see the complete destruction of Babylon took almost a year to take down some cities of Kedar. But this Babylon is going to be destroyed in one day. You understand? So to furthermore prove that it's, Vatican City sits right on the sea. And it says, Revelations 18:21, and a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone and cast it into the sea, saying, thus with violence shall the great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be no more found at all. So, as far as I'm concerned, you can still see ancient Babylon in the desert today from, satellite, from Google Earth. You can still see the ruins of ancient Babylon. You understand? But Vatican City sits right on the sea. And when the angel takes up that huge rock or millstone and casts it into the sea, and that huge tsunami wave comes upon Vatican City, that city will be no more in remembrance. You understand? So, to wrap this up, I'm going to wrap it up like this. Revelations chapter 20, verse 10. And the devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet are, and he shall be tormented day and night forever and ever. Now the devil, we know he's going into the lake of fire. The beast, the wicked army that was formed, and also who else? The false prophet. Now who's the false prophet? You understand? Who has the name of Vakars Philly Die, substitute of Christ on earth? Who has a name of son of perdition? Who is the abomination of desolation? Who is the man of sin? Who is the man who has eyes of a man? Who has a mouth speaking blasphemy? He has many names. Understand, this is a man we're talking about here, and he's the leader of the Roman Catholic Church, which has a lot of followers. You understand? He's the false prophet. Revelations 19:20. And the beast was taken, and with him the false prophet that wrought miracles before him, with which he deceived them that had received the mark of the beast, and them that worship his image. These both were cast alive into the lake of fire, burning with brimstone. You understand? And I think I'm going to end it right there. So, when we trying to identify Babylon, is first thing is first, do what the Messiah says. Go read Daniel's. And if you read outside of Daniel's, 9 times out of 10, the Babylon you're reading about is ancient Babylon that was destroyed. You understand? And yeah, the Most High, through the Spirit of the Most High, told us where Babylon sits. She sits on the city of 7 hills. Vatican City sits on 7 hills. The Most High told us what color she wears, scarlet and purple. The Most High told us that she shall speak blasphemy. And according to the scriptures, blasphemy is, saying you can forgive sins and, other definitions of blasphemy. And, she's contrary to the word of the Most High. She's changing times and laws. She's calling a man father. And, she's gotten the inhabitants of the earth drunk, but not with anything physical, not even with wine, not even with oil, with nothing physical, but with something spiritual. So with that being said, Rome is the final empire upon the face of the earth, just like the scripture says, and mystery Babylon the Great is the little horn which came out of Rome, which is called Vatican City. And with that being said, I hope people were edified, and I hope you find rest with this lesson. Today is Saturday, March the 3rd. So with that being said, Shabbat Shalom.